Ladies and gentlemen, watch the segment I did on Buzzfeed News shutting down. I'm not happy people are losing their jobs. I do not relish that, but I have been telling the world for years on this channel and in my writing that if you just devote your life to taking down Trump, that's not reporting, that's not journalism, that's not media or a free press. That's you're working as a public relations executive or an extension of the Democratic Party. We saw that with Twitter. The Twitter files showed that an actual platform was literally an extension of the Democratic Party, working with government officials, non-government officials to just silence viewpoints they don't like under the guise of, well, it's just protocol. So if you're just reporting the same things all the time, Trump bad, you're not doing anything different from the Washington Post or Times or MSNBC, CNN, Atlantic. You're not doing anything different from Vanity Fair, Esquire, Rolling Stone. Now Vice, in addition to BuzzFeed News, Vice Media cuts around 2% of digital news. Okay, so Vice is quietly gutting its editorial team. So these are all, but here you have the Wall Street Journal. BuzzFeed is shutting down, and Vice World News could be next. So you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where Vice could be shutting down, just like BuzzFeed. And I don't know how the Washington Post and others, the Atlantic, who reads these publications? The reason I ask this is it's the same news all the time. It's the same news all the time. It doesn't change, okay? When I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Because I was born on this planet to have my own mind, my own thoughts. I don't pledge allegiance to a political party. I'm not vote blue no matter who. I can look and see, hey, if Trump was doing a good job as president, if I want Americans brought home, if I want a foreign policy that is an anti-war, or at least a foreign policy that opposes the Lincoln Project, and I think that's the most important issue because I don't want to be 90 seconds to midnight. According to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, I don't want inflation through the roof. I don't want crime, homelessness, all of these problems that have just skyrocketed under Biden. Then I look and I say, you know what, Trump, we had record low poverty with Trump in 2019. We had the Abraham Accords, Doha Agreement that Biden completely botched. It was a May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. We had all of these accomplishments with Trump. I don't care about his personality. It doesn't, I'm not voting for someone's personality. I'm voting for record low poverty, which is what I thought Bernie Sanders would preside over back in the day when I was way on the left. But I was able to change my mind. I was able to view life in a different way. When you're at the Washington Post or the New York Times or MSNBC, CNN, Vanity Fair, Esquire, Rolling Stone, Atlantic, New Yorker, New York Magazine, if you're working for Jimmy Kimmel or Seth Meyers or Stephen Colbert, Saturday Night Live, or you're working for most tech companies or platforms, it's the same world view. They don't change. So how are you going to what's your competitive advantage if you're BuzzFeed or Vice when Vanity Fair, Esquire, Rolling Stone, the Washington Post are saying the exact same things all the time? They're saying the exact same things all the time. What is this media? Is this reporting? Is this journalism? What are you contributing for the 1 billionth article on how bad Trump's personality is, or his rhetoric, or how terrible he is? You're not going to influence half the country. It's done. It's over. The charade is done. All people are doing now in media is twisting and manipulating the minds of those who already despise Trump. You can't, once you reach a point of no return in terms of disliking Trump, you're no longer rational. Now it's just a matter of now you're going to disown friends and family. Now you're not going to speak to people close to you because they vote Trump. Because you're like, oh my God, all of media, he's really a tyrant. It's like, well, they serve as public relations to hide the truth about Hunter Biden, Joe, Bill, Hillary, all of these people. So you can't transfer top secret intel onto servers running outside the United States government. It's a serious crime. Of course, the Honorable James Comey said no reasonable prosecutor would indict. You could watch the short on this channel. Trump didn't tell people to commit crimes in January. He didn't do any of it. He didn't even do what they indicted him in New York with the alleged indictment. The indictment allegedly states there was no federal crime. The FEC fined Clinton and fined the DNC. And they cheated Bernie Sanders. And then they blamed Russia. I mean, look at history. I mean, hit subscribe to this channel right now. If you want to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. Email me at contactgoodman88@gmail.com. If you want to be part of a newsletter. And ladies and gentlemen, what was I going to tell you? Super thanks is below. My Patreon is below next to the like and the share buttons. But ladies and gentlemen, what is what are you offering the world? And I'm not happy people are losing their jobs. I'm not happy that Vice that Vice News could lose, people could lose jobs at Vice. It doesn't make me happy. I'm not like the wonderful, morally superior liberals on Twitter who gleeful. They are so gleeful, like the ladies at The View. They're so gleeful and happy when any misfortune takes place for their political opponents or adversaries or people they disagree with. I'm not like that. I know that there are good people working at Buzzfeed and Vice News, whether they were spewing out nonsense or regurgitating the same stuff about Trump all the time. That's another story. These are human beings. I don't want them to lose their job. I don't want them to Biden's economy is terrible, by the way. Absolutely terrible. I don't want anyone at BuzzFeed or Vice or anywhere to lose their job. But if you look at the aggregate viewpoint, I've been saying this on this channel. If you dislike Trump and you're a publication, how are you different from every other publication? Furthermore, do you want to know what would have helped BuzzFeed? People think I'm completely nuts. If you had one person defending Trump. Can you have one person at the Washington Post or Atlantic? Is there anyone? Can you have even a one person? Because he did get 70 plus million people. So there's got to be one person. Okay? And so the belief that, it's not a really Republican, it's a make America great again type person. Everybody, 70 plus million. You get Mitt Romney, you're not even going to get a 60 million. I think he got 60 million in 2012, but you're not, that's with all of media. I don't know if it was 60, but I don't know if it was 60 million. That's with all of media, treating him in the most objective manner possible. Media was completely apolitical, virtually apolitical. They did wonderful pieces on Paul Ryan working out. That will never happen again. Media is firmly an extension, is just like Twitter was an extension of the Democratic Party. But there has to be something that differentiates you. If you are a liberal publication that wants to stay alive, then get a Trump supporter to write some articles. I mean, differentiate yourself somehow. Because if people look at you and say, okay, Democratic Party, Democratic National Committee newsletter, I don't understand. The writing is on the wall. It's been on the wall for a long time. And now Vice might, and again, I don't want people to lose their job. Okay? But there has to be an understanding in media that most Americans do not trust media because of the bias against Trump, even if you don't like Trump. You can leave it at that and focus on his policies, not obsess over him every article. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe. Right.